stories of what they think you like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I
Great job, team. Let's just tell our band, thanks for leading us this morning. Well done. Children grades 6 and under, it's time for kids worship. So we have a fabulous morning planned for you, and our leaders are ready for you. So wherever you are in the sanctuary, you can head on out. I feel like it's Thanksgiving in June for lots of reasons. I've got my top 3 listed out right here. Thanksgiving in June. Last night, we had a thank you barbecue for over 100 volunteers at Edgeworthy Park. And I'm so thankful for all our volunteers. You think about the size of our church. We had 100 volunteers out, families, at the picnic, at the barbecue last night. And we've got 100 folks that faithfully serve, joyfully serve, great folks that work with children. They're headed down right now. Folks that help with our finance team, help with welcome team, hospitality team, help with ushers and greeters and AV and worship and so many things. Let's just tell all of our volunteers thank you this morning. Wow. And I have to tell you, it was lots of fun last night. I think people were more hungry for fellowship last night than they were for burgers and smokies and all of that good stuff. But yeah, it was great. Second reason I'm thankful and feel like it's Thanksgiving in June is it didn't rain last night. Yes. Now, the weather app that I use is not the one that comes preloaded on your phone. I use the Environment Canada one. If that's not the one you use, that's weather tracked by Canadians, not Americans, okay? So the weather app that I use is the Environment Canada one. And so all week I've been watching the weather because it's a big deal when you feed 100 people outside and you got tables and food and canopies and all kinds of stuff. And so Caleb was helping me do some pre-setup stuff yesterday. And we left the house at noon. And when we left at noon, it started drizzling and raining on us. And it was drizzling pretty good. And I, yesterday morning, I'll have to tell you what went through my mind. I checked my Environment Canada. I looked at the daily, at the hourly. I wanted to see when the precipitation was coming. And I felt like God was saying the same thing he said to David. You don't have to count your fighting men. You don't have to worry about how many guys you got to fight, because I'm here to fight for you. Shane, you don't have to check the weather app. I got the weather covered. And he did. It was great. So God, thank you for the beautiful night last night. It was beautiful. The rain came around midnight. We didn't have to pack up in the rain or anything. It was a beautiful night. And if you're one of our volunteers and you couldn't make it last night, we're so thankful for you. Come over to my house. I'll cook you a burger personally. All right? I'm just so thankful for you. The third reason that I'm thankful, and I feel like it's Thanksgiving in June, is last Sunday, our church collected a special offering for our building fund to pay for a gym feasibility study and some special maintenance projects this summer. And the feasibility study cost $5,000. Last Sunday, our church raised $8,000. Yeah, isn't that awesome? Wow. So this doesn't mean that we're going to start breaking ground and building a gym, okay? That means this summer we're going to hire an architecture firm that's going to look and see structurally, permit-wise, all that kind of stuff, financial, everything, building cost so much. They're just going to see what it would take if we wanted to build a fairly inexpensive gym on the east side of our property. So it's a feasibility study. If when they come back, then our church has something to pray about, to consider, to vote on as a fellowship and then as a body. But in the meantime, it's something to study and certainly something to pray about. Some folks have asked if they can still give. Yes, you can. Some of the maintenance projects that we're going to do, some of them have a big ticket. We've been wanting to put a door opener and closer on the women's washroom door, make it easier, more handicap accessible, different things like that. So some of those kind of things cost a little bit more money. So Yes, if you didn't have a chance to give, but you feel like you want to, you can still give. Just note on your EFT or on your envelope, building. That notes that it's for the special building fund. The cardboard testimonies were a great reminder of how important it is to reach the next generation. And to reach the next generation, it takes volunteers and it takes funds. So thank you for your generosity and your faithfulness at Richmond Hill Baptist Church. It's a joy to serve with you. Thanks. We are starting a series, if you hadn't heard, a new series. It's called the Friend Series. The Friend Series. I've been blessed with lots of great friends over the years, and I have a best friend. His name is Hondo. Her name is Marisa. And we will have been married for 30 years come July 11th. And so I'm super thankful for Marisa. Yeah. I do have a golden retriever friend. My mom got me a t-shirt from Banff that it says, I like my dog and maybe a few other people. And some days that's true. But I've been blessed with some great friends over the years. Let me just tell you a couple of my friends. One from high school, his name was Clint Batson. Now, Clint Batson, he was a band guy. I was a football guy. We had a lot of differences, a lot of similarities, but we were great friends, went to youth group together, went to high school together. And I remember one time we had a BB gun fight. I don't recommend this if you're listening or watching. We had a BB gun fight. We were being safe about it. We had safety goggles on. We had our, safety goggles, and we were shooting BB guns at each other. And I was on the side of the house that required me to shoot left-handed, and I shot Clint right here. Right here. And it was right in the nose. And you know how the nose can bleed really good? He was bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And my mom or dad, someone, I can't remember who, said, "Hey, boys, you guys doing okay? What are you guys doing out there?" "Yeah, we're good. We're shooting grasshoppers." And Clint's around the corner just bleeding like crazy because I hit him in those. Thankfully, we had the protective eyewear on, right? Man, every time I see that movie, The Christmas Story, I think, you'll shoot your eye out. You got to be careful of those BB guns. I shot Clint in the nose with a BB gun, but Clint, one time, we were canoeing down the Arkansas River, fast-moving river, below the dam, and he dropped his paddle in the river. Fast-moving, dangerous spot, and we got turned a little sideways, and we hit a bridge pylon. And we kind of ruined my dad's canoe. Because when it hit sideways, it flipped, and it filled with water, and whole different story there. So Clint and I, we got some great experiences to share. Clint's house, he lived in a fly zone for bats. So we would fill up a sock with sand, and we'd throw it up in the air, time just right, and a bat would hit that sock of sand and come down. It was a great way to catch bats. I have some great high school memories with my buddy Clint. I got a university buddy. His name was Todd. Todd was his name. Todd and I had some similarities, but then once again, a lot of differences. And for one Thanksgiving, he came home with me and another buddy, Amos, came home. And one of the first things we did was we took him out to the mesa where we go four-wheel driving. And I took him out there at night, and there's this mesa that drops off about 400 yards straight down, and it's pitch black. All you can see is an airport lights way off in the distance. And I take Todd and Amos and Clint, we're all in the front seat, and we drive off this mesa, and it's like a cliff. It's just straight down. You're standing on the floorboards. I thought the two of them were going to pee their pants. They have never forgiven me for that. Drive them off of that mesa, come back up it. So the next Thanksgiving, Todd thought, reciprocating, kind of how friends are, he thought it was important for me to go see his family. His family lived in Georgia, and so he wanted to show me the Koch Museum and Stonehill or stuff in Atlanta. So we went out there. On the way back, he said, "Shane, have you ever been to New Orleans before?" I said, I've never been to New Orleans. He said, have you ever had seafood gumbo? I said, I've never had seafood gumbo. He said, we need to take you to New Orleans and get you some seafood gumbo. So we made like a 6-hour, little extra side trip on our way back from Georgia. And we stopped in New Orleans, and we ordered seafood gumbo. And in my bowl and in his bowl, there was this soft-shelled crab floating in the middle of my bowl. And so I'd never had this before. I said, Todd, is this, you eat this thing? Like, what do you do with this thing? He said, oh, yeah, you eat it. They've boiled it, soft-shelled. You just eat it. He said, but you want to save it to the end. It's really good. Like, save it? Like, I'm the person that's like, if you got dessert, you eat the dessert first, right? I took my soft-shelled crab, and I threw it in my mouth, and I started chewing on this crunchy crab. And I could tell by the look in my buddy's eyes that he was pulling a prank on me. And I'm chewing up my crab, pinchers and all. Crunchy, crunchy, crunchy. I needed a little extra water. But I could tell by my buddy's eyes getting bigger and bigger that he's like, I cannot believe Shane just ate this crab. And to tell you what kind of friend Todd is he saved his crab to the end, and he didn't have the heart to tell me that he was messing with me. And he popped his crab in his mouth, and he ate the whole thing. That's a good friend, huh? I haven't seen Clint or Todd for 30, 35 years, long time. I've stayed a little bit in contact with them over Facebook. That's probably one of the things I like most about Facebook is just staying in touch with old friends. My buddy Todd, he's an investment manager in the Phoenix area. He's got 2 boys. He's married. And he likes to camp and do outdoor stuff. And 2 years ago, before COVID, he had called me and he said, hey, Shane, I'd like to bring my family camping in Canada. I see all the beautiful pictures you post. I'd love to see you, and I'd love to see Canada and the mountains there and go camping there. And so we were coordinating it and setting it up. And COVID happened. And I didn't get to see my buddy, Todd. But we still stay in touch. It's hard to estimate how much COVID has truly impacted our lives, certainly our relationships and our friendships. We do know that COVID has made the world a much lonelier place. I was reading a recent article entitled 6 in 10 Canadians Feeling Lonely in Pandemic. It was a study conducted by the University of Victoria and the Gen Well Project. Here's just a couple of their findings. 6 in 10 Canadians are lonely many times throughout the week. Over half, 6 in 10, 60%. 5 in 10 Canadians, half, are lonely every day. They're just lonely all the time. Gen Z, born between 1997 and 2012, we had some fun with Gen Z about a month ago when we were talking about our Next Generation series. Gen Z have the highest rate of overall loneliness. That would be our university students right now. Think about many of them. If they went off to university or something and their classes went online, they've spent a couple of years online. The computer's been their friend. Gen Z, the loneliest. 8 in 10 Canadians have a low overall life satisfaction due to being lonely. 8 in 10. Most Canadians, they're not happy. They're dissatisfied with life, mostly because they're lonely. 4 in 10 Canadians, 4, want more friends. So, the bottom line is that most Canadians are lonely and they're dissatisfied with life. Now, in the article that I was reading, there was a recommendation. It said the best medicine for people is not laughter, people. The best medicine for people is people. With people comes laughter, doesn't it? A few crab jokes and pranks and life. Yeah, laughter is good for us. but typically we laugh with friends. So people is the best medicine. Social connections have been shown to reduce loneliness, anxiety, depression, strengthen our immune system. Do you get that? Friendships, relationships strengthen your immune system and your self-confidence. They help us develop empathy, which is so important, and compassion for others. Social connections increase our chances of living longer by 50%. Your social connections. This is the conclusion of Pete Bombasi, founder of the Gen Well Project. He says, and I really like this statement, if we all make the effort to connect with others on a daily basis, we can have an impact on our own health and wellness and that of those that we connect with. That is a balanced statement because a lot of people are fairly selfish in their friendships. They're looking into who brings me joy, who brings me laughter, who's fun, who listens to me. But balanced relationships and friendships are always two-way streets. What kind of joy are you bringing into other people's lives? Who are you listening to? On and on and on. And so I think Pete's pretty balanced here, but I think Pete is right. Our social connections are so important. They help us from being less depressed, anxious, more satisfied, higher, strengthens our immune system, our self-confidence, and helps reduce loneliness. Friendship, community, fellowship, and partnership are not new concepts for the church. You think about just our church purpose statement. I want you to do it with me silently. For those of you that know it, do the hand motions. Our church purpose statement is to connect with our church purpose statement to connect with God, His Word, His people. That's the church. You open the doors, you see all the people. Connect with people and His mission. Connecting with God, His Word, His church, His mission. The Bible is all about relationships. The Scriptures are filled with relational examples and admonitions. The relationship and unity between God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Wow. The fact that we are made in the image of a relational God who wants to be in a right relationship with every person on the planet. God is so relational. The friendship between Abraham and God. The friendship between David and Jonathan. The letters of Paul and John. John, most of his letters say, dear friend, dear friend, dear friend. I hope all is going well with your soul. I hope you're physically doing well. I hope you're healthy. You're doing good. The 10 Commandments in the Old Testament, just the 10 Commandments alone, are all about relationships. They help us to relate to God in a right way and help us to relate to other people. So important. The one another passages in the New Testament help us to get along with one another. So important. Care for one another. Pray for one another. Encourage one another. Love one another. The Proverbs and the wisdom sayings of Solomon. So much wisdom in Ecclesiastes, in the Song of Solomon, and in the book of Proverbs. One of my favorite relational pieces of wisdom comes from Solomon in the book of Ecclesiastes. We're just going to take a couple minutes this morning and look at it. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9. Solomon says that two are better than one. They have a good return for their work. I've done lots of building projects over the years, all kinds of construction projects, all kinds of different projects. Two are better than one. Yesterday, when we got to the picnic site, Caleb and I, and Abby, our new intern, and Cheryl, our administrative assistant, we were the setup team. And if I had to do that all by myself, that would have been a lot of work. Two were better than one. Four were better than one. When we packed it all up last night, a bunch of the volunteers that were still around, everyone in one fell swoop carried back everything, loaded it up. 2 are better than 1. How many times have you done a project and you're like, if I just had one more set of hands to hold this or put this in place? 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their work. Verse 10, if one falls down, his or her friend can pick him up. Pick him up. But pity the person who falls down and has no one to help them get up. Have you ever fallen down and you needed some help? Canadians, we fall down all the time. Ice. We're always falling down. You ever fall down in one of those places that's really slippery, and it's so slippery you try to get up and it's a cartoon? Yeah. 2 are better than 1. If one falls down, his friends. That's what friends do. They help pick us up. Not only when we fall down physically, but when we fall down emotionally. Sometimes we just need someone to encourage us and help pick us up. I love the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon. I think I got it here for you. Calvin and Hobbes. Friends pick us up when we fall down, and if they can't pick us up, they lie down and listen for a while. That's pretty good, isn't it? Calvin and the Tiger. Love that cartoon series, Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah. Friends pick us up when we fall down. Verse 11. Also, if 2 lie down together, they'll keep warm. But how can one keep warm? That's one of the things I love about being married. I have to tell you, when Maurice and I moved in the house we were renovating the house that we moved into, and the timing was kind of tricky because we sold our house in August. We wanted to make sure we had the cash in the bank before we bought a new house. By the time we bought a house, closed on it, took 3 to 4 weeks to renovate it and paint it and everything. It was the end of October. We were staying in our RV trailer from September through October, and that particular fall, we had a lot of snow a lot of times, and towards the end of October, we had to empty all the water out of our RV tanks because it was so cold, and so we didn't have, the toilet and the sink and everything in there, and so we're kind of rough camping out at Camp Hope, 20 kilometers down the road here, and I would stay and paint. I'd work all day, and then I would go paint at the house. Sometimes I'd come in at midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning, and in the back of our RV trailer where Maurice and I sleep, that bed was kind of out over, but the heater was closest to her side. My side was close to the window. And I remember I would come in, it'd be minus 16 in the RV trailer, and I'd get in about 2 in the morning, crawl into my little spot back there, and I'd be like, I feel like I'm an ice cube in an ice tray. This is cold. And Marisa, she's like as close as she can to the heater vent. And she's over there. She's one of them like, yes. And she'd be like, don't put your cold feet on me. 2 are better than 1. They'll keep you warm. That's important in Canada, isn't it? It's cold here. Verse 12. Solomon says, though 1 may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. 2 can defend themselves. Marisa and I, we have very different kind of feeds on our Facebook. She'll look over and she'll say, what are you looking at? And you know how it is. If you look at one, everything's set up so if you look at something once, you're going to get a whole bunch of it. So if you look at recipes, you're going to get a whole bunch of recipes. If you look at, needle craft, you're going to get a lot of needle craft out. If you look at, grizzly bears once, you're going to get a lot of grizzly bear feeds. So I get these grizzly bear feeds, and some of them are out of Yellowstone, south of us. And so because there's a lot of tourists in Yellowstone, there's a lot of videos that come out of there. And occasionally, you'll get a grizzly bear that has killed a moose or an elk or something and trying to eat. It's trying to eat. it's hard-earned lunch. And it's trying to eat. And all of a sudden, a pack of wolves shows up. Now, what's interesting about the pack of wolves, in Canada, we'll get a pack of 5 to 10. But in the Yellowstone Park, they got packs that have 20, wolves in there. And so a pack of 20 wolves will show up and say, this is fast food in the Rockies. We didn't have to kill this. The grizzly bear killed it. We can just take over the moose or the elk, and we got free lunch. The only thing is, there's a grizzly bear between us and lunch. Well, wolves are so smart. They work together as a team. They just work well. 1 is better than 2. 10 is better than 5. Wolves work really well in terms of teamwork. And they come in, and the bear will turn, and one will come in from the back. They're always trying to hamstring it. And so do you know what one grizzly bear will do if it's got a kill that it wants to eat? It will sit on it. So it goes from being like this and doing this to it will just sit on it, and all it has to do is turn. And teeth and claws are right there. And you'd be amazed at what one grizzly bear can protect when it's facing a lot of wolves. But if you get 2 or 3 grizzly bears together, no wolf pack wants to take them on. Solomon tells us this. Though one may be overpowered, and sometimes the grizzly bear is just overpowered and they get tired. They just get tired because there's so many wolves. And sometimes the bear has to give up its lunch and move on, and the wolf pack gets lunch. Solomon tells us, though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. So true. You ever hear someone say, I've got your backside? That's where you're most vulnerable. We need people that aren't stabbing us in the back. We need people that are going to watch us from the back. They're going to defend us. They're going to stand up for us. They're not going to gossip about us. They're not going to say something behind our back. They have our back. The one may be overpowered. 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. There's strength in numbers. So many times this passage is used in marriage talks. And you'll hear a pastor talk about the power of 3 in a relationship, and the fact that if it's a marriage relationship, there's a husband and a wife, cord 1, cord 2, and a third cord, God. How much stronger a marriage relationship is when God's in the center of our relationship. So very important. Have you ever gone through a friendship audit? Have you ever heard about a friendship audit? In recent years, there's been quite a few articles and books that talk about a friendship audit. So what exactly is a friendship audit? It's a review of the important relationships in your life. A friendship audit looks at not only the quantity, but the quality of your friendships. A lot of folks early on when Facebook was out, they saw great value in the number of friends that they had on Facebook. And so they were friending everybody. Friend requests would come through, and they had hundreds of people of friends. Well, studies have shown that most people can't handle too much more than 100 or 150 good relationships. So a friendship audit audits the number of friends that you have, the quantity, but it also evaluates the quality of your relationship. So I've got my own little audit here that I put together, and I'm going to talk about some of the other audits in a few minutes, some side notes, but some quantity questions to consider. How many friends do I have? And then you begin to kind of break it out. How many friends do I have at home? My family. How many people do I talk to regularly that I really care about? Sometimes just because we're blood and flesh doesn't mean we like each other. How many friends do I have in my family? How many friends do I have at church? That's a really good question. Studies have shown over and over again that if you don't have friends at church, you won't go to church after a few years. Why? Because one day you wake up on a Sunday morning and you say, nobody at that place cares for me. Nobody cares for me. Well, I've had that conversation hundreds of times. Do my best to listen, understand. Sometimes probe, ask a few more questions. Have you tried to do stuff with other friends? Have you tried to serve? Have you tried to be in small groups, send groups, connect classes? What effort have you made? Sometimes folks they kind of see it. Nobody cares about me. Well, did you reach out? Try to go to lunch after church or do stuff with anyone. How many friends do you have at home, at church, at work? Sometimes you work and you're like, I don't like any of these people. Just don't like them. So there's not a lot of joy in the workplace. You kind of dread going to work. You can work the most miserable job in the world, and you can like the people you work with, and it's the greatest job you'll ever have. Isn't that true? But if you have the greatest job in the world and the people you work with are miserable, it'll be the most miserable job you ever have. The quality of the people and the friendships and the relationships you have, it makes all the difference. Do you have friends in your hobby, in your neighborhood? How many friends do you have? How many friends care about you? And how many friends do you care about? A second question, how many close friends do I have versus casual friends? Now, we understand the difference. There's some folks that are more of acquaintances, some folks that we see regularly, but some folks, the way Marisa puts it, they're the people that I can pray with. You're not going to get that in some friendship audit out there on the web. What kind of people, what kind of friends can you pray with? Okay? Not gripe with, pray with. Huge, huge difference. A fourth question, how much time do I spend with my friends? During COVID, when things were locked down, how much time on the phone? How much time on Zoom? How much time in person? So the quantity, and some of that has to do with quality, but how many friends do I have? What kind of friends? How much time do I spend with them? Now, there's some quality questions here. How well does my friend listen to me? Good question. On the flip side, how well do I listen to my friend? Now, we know how this goes. Sometimes when we're talking to someone, we're thinking about what we want to say while they're actually talking to us, right? We're not actually listening. We pretend like we're listening, but we're not really listening. So when you're thinking about the quality of relationships, is someone really listening to you? Are you really listening to them? Trust. Do I trust my friend? Do I trust my friend? Does my friend trust me? Trust. So important in a relationship. Trust, once it's lost, it's tough to regain. Does my friend bring me joy? Do I bring my friend joy? There are some people, and if you read enough friendship audits, the people they tell you to defriend are the people that are negative, critical all the time. They're like, you hang around enough negative, critical people, that's what you'll become. It'll impact your health. And so most of these friendship audits online, it's all about the me kind of thing. How are people impacting me? Negative people. People who are trying to influence me to do wrong things or negative things. Those are the kind of folks that online they're saying not good to have. Now, Solomon will say some things about that. We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 26. But do I bring my friend joy? Do my friends bring joy? It's always a two-way street, this relational thing. Do I show interest in my friend? Does my friend show interest in me? There's sometimes I can go through conversations through a week, and I will have asked all the questions. You think about it. How's your week been? How's your family doing? How's this? How's your job? How's this? For me, a lot of times it's refreshing when someone says, how about you, Dad? How was your day? My boys, they'll do that. They get in the truck, I'll pick them up. How was the exam? How was school? How was the workout? How was the job? It's good. Dad, how was your day? Love that. It means they're learning. They understand the reciprocation. So very important. How does my friend positively or negatively influence my relationship with God? How does my friend positively or negatively influence my walk, my friendship with God? Conversely, how do I positively or negatively influence my friend's relationship with God? So in the audit, heads up, it's good, it's healthy to have non-Christian friends. It's good to have Christian friends. It's good to have a balance of both. But if someone is over or negatively influencing you in an ungodly, wicked way, that's not good. So the influence is the key. Who is helping here with the influence? But sometimes someone's helping you influence you in a really positive way in your walk with God. How does my friend positively or negatively influence my relationship with God? On our last friend talk, we're going to be talking about our non-Christian friends. We're going to be talking about Matthew. The first thing Matthew did when he came to Christ was have a party with lots of unchristian friends. His goal was to help them come to know God and the hope and the peace, the influence. These are just some questions I'm coming up with. These aren't really perfect or exhaustive or anything. More than anything, it's really to cause you to be a catalyst for you to think about how many friends you have, where they are, and the quality of your friendships. And really, are my friendships kind of two-way? Is there give and take in there? Now, I got some side notes. I had some footnotes in here just because this is stuff can be taken the wrong way. Number one, side note. As you review your friendships, it's important to have a balance of Christian and non-Christian friends. I don't want anyone to walk away and say, I don't need to have any non-Christian friends, or vice versa. It's good to have balance. Number two, side note. You need to be aware that some of the friendship audit questions are very self-centered and not healthy. I'm not talking about mine. I'm talking about the ones if you just go online and say, man, I've never heard about a friendship audit. And you go online and you're like, I got to search this. And you get on the web and you start going through all these friendship audits. A lot of the questions are very self-centered and unhealthy. One of them, it was all about me. How does my friend listen to me? How does my friend bring me joy? Do I trust my friend? On and on and on. It was me, my, and I. It was very self-centered. Wasn't healthy. So, friendships are always a two-way street. I've said that. If conversations are one-sided, it's an indicator. It's an indicator for you or your friend. Keep in mind that needy people need friends. True or false? All of us, we all have a friend that's needy, and it's one-sided. Just because you audit your relationship and you say, you know what? This friendship is one-sided, it's one way. Does that mean you defriend them like you do on Facebook? Like, that's what happened. There was a lot of friendship audits during COVID on Facebook, and people said, I don't like this person because of their view. My wife tells me, Marisa says, you don't call it unfriend? No, it's unfriend, you don't defriend. I get them turned around. You know what I mean. Delete them, you're no longer my friend. There are folks that God has placed in your life that need extra TLC, right? And when there's people in your life that need extra TLC, that means you, more than ever, you need to have balance in your other relationships and friends, because you need some folks to bring a little joy into your life. And it's not always doom and gloom, right? So, side note, if all your friends are needy, that's not healthy. A third side note, during COVID, there were lots of friendship audits taking place on social media. Folks were evaluating their friends on Facebook simply based on what they posted. Political things, COVID things, vaccine things, face mask things. And if someone concluded on Facebook that they didn't like what they posted, not my friend anymore. Unfriended, defriended, whatever it is. You know what? It's okay to have friends that don't agree with you. True or false? It's just like in the workplace or any team. It's okay to not have everyone that agrees, because there's health in perspective. Perspective is important, and sometimes we can get off balance in our perspectives. And so it's okay to have friends that have different perspectives. You don't have to be mean or mad about it. You can just say, you know what, I don't agree with that, but that's okay. You're still my friend, right? Yes. Some of you are like, don't say that. Come on, Pastor Shane, I don't like that. It's okay to have friends with people that we don't necessarily agree with, isn't it? Yeah, it is. A fourth side note. Buckle up. Anxiety and fear over COVID can be more debilitating and more devastating than getting COVID itself. Fear and anxiety over getting COVID can be more debilitating and devastating than getting COVID itself. We know how devastating worry is. There's plenty of studies about worry. Worry is a disease. It just eats at us. Worry keeps us from sleeping. Sleep is the number one factor in the longevity of life. You spend all your time worrying about COVID and being anxious about it. Eat at you. You're not thinking about other things. It takes you to a negative spot. You're anxious. You're isolated. You're lonely. And when we hear about all the studies about social connectedness, not getting sleep, not a good place to be. A fifth side note. Like, come on, Pastor. Like, we're talking about friends today, not COVID, right? A fifth one. COVID has become a great excuse. Just soak on that for a minute. COVID has become a great excuse. And by the way, a really good one socially in the world. It's become a great excuse for not developing or maintaining friendships. COVID reinforced introverted tendencies in people who didn't really like or want to be around people anyways. You know, when the first lockdowns occurred, I remember this so well 2 years ago in March, April. You know what? It's just kind of nice. I don't have to relate or talk to anyone. I can just be home. I can watch TV all day long and maybe do some work. I'm supposed to work from home. Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to work from home. Yeah. For folks who had an introverted tendency, all I did was say, woohoo! I now have an excused absence. I don't have to relate to anybody. I didn't like people anyways, and I don't have to relate to them now. Excused absence. But make no mistake, there are lots of folks who have used COVID as a cloak to cover up lots of other unhealthy phobias. So there's folks that had other unhealthy issues emotionally and other things, and COVID just said, I don't have to. I don't have to. I can have my groceries dropped off at my house, and I can do everything digitally and electronically. I don't have to face anyone, including my fears and my phobias. You complicate that with life in Canada, where we struggle with seasonal affective disorder, depression, darkness, so many other things. It just makes a really good recipe for lots of lonely, isolated, anxious people. So no wonder half of Canadians are lonely and dissatisfied with life. King Solomon not only encourages friendships, he encourages us to be wise in our friendships. And so this is what I want to end with. A righteous man, I would say person, is cautious in friendship. Cautious. But the way of the wicked leads them astray. Typically, we would use this passage to say, pay attention to your friends and make sure that you don't have any evil, wicked friends that are leading you down a dark path. Make sure that Darth Vader is not your best friend. Right? You need a few Jedis in your life, right? You don't need Darth Vader to be your best friend. He might be one of the folks that you're out there trying to reach, but he doesn't need to be your best friend. So Solomon is right. A righteous person is cautious in friendship, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. A righteous person is cautious in friendship. The caution rests in not only who your friends are, but how well your friendships are going. Think about it. Ignoring caution signs can be devastating, especially when you're experiencing winter driving conditions and the signs are flashing and they say icy conditions may exist. So when you see that in the wintertime, when you're driving and you have your snow tires on, what do? Typically, you slow down. Caution, icy conditions may exist. You're heeding the warning. It's a caution sign. If you have a warning light go off in your vehicle, it's a caution sign. You heed it. You pay attention to it. The caution here isn't that I need to avoid having Darth Vader as my best friend. The caution is also, how are my friendships? A righteous person is cautious in their friendship. And if my friendships aren't healthy, if they're not good, if I'm not cultivating my friendships, then that should be a warning sign. Caution, heads up. Because you can go down a dark path and it has nothing to do with Darth Vader taking you down it, right? It's just because you're spiraling out in loneliness and depression. And you end up in a place that you don't want to be. Another sad statistic. For many, it's way past time to renew and warm up to your friendships. It's been slow. It's been hard. But a righteous person is cautious in friendship. I was so encouraged Friday night. Youth group. Our grade sixers were invited to bump up, to join in all the youth stuff. We had a whole bunch of grade sixers that were here. That was so encouraging. Why is that encouraging? Because if you've been around youth long enough and church, and for me, parented 4 kids, you realize how important Friday night youth is. And if you don't help your kids get plugged in and help them make friends, you get this, friends at church. If they don't have friends at church, by the time they get to grade 9, they say, I don't want to go to church. And then you have a fight on your hand. So the fight that you want to make is to fight to help your kids make friends. Healthy friends. Now, just because they're church kids doesn't mean they're all good, healthy. You know what I'm saying? I get that. But you want to be fighting for them. That's why I say trips like we had the weekend before to the Gleaners, overnight trips, that's a good one. That's a one-night deal. But even better, summer youth celebration, a week of hanging out with other kids that maybe you don't know. It solidifies friendships. The kids that become friends at SYC, I've seen it now for 20 years. They stick and they stay. They become friends. And if you look at the cost of SYC and you say $300 or $400 is expensive, it's nothing compared to the fight of trying to keep your kids close to God. You will gladly pay for it. Parents of youth, young adults, this Tuesday night, all of the grade 12ers, we got 14 of them, who graduated from high school are invited to join the young adults. That's all the university age folks. Tuesday night. You know what we're doing this Tuesday night? Our church adopted a highway during COVID. Highway 8. It goes out to the roundabout at Bragg Creek. We pick up trash. And they put our church name on the sign. Isn't that cool? We've adopted a highway, Richmond Hill Baptist Church. Yeah, I love that. Every time I drive by, I'm like, that's a reminder that we care. We care about our world. We're stewards of our world. We care about people. We care about the environment. We care about the planet. And so Tuesday night, our young adults, we're going to meet here, and then we're going to go out and we're going to pick up trash on Highway 8. After we pick up trash, we're going to go to Camp Hope, build a fire, grill smokies, hamburgers, have a great time, fireside time. And you know what? The forecast looks good on Tuesday night. And I don't think I'm going to look at it between now and then. You know what, the whole Adopt a Highway thing, I drive through there during, in January, and we've got a Chinook, and I look out there, and I'm like, man, there's some trash out here. We need to pick up the trash. Of course, it's a little too cold and too much snow, but you drive through there after a good snowstorm, and it's like, wow, it's all white and clean. I'm like, man, I love this Adopt a Highway program after a good snow. Isn't it great? You guys do a great job of keeping the highway clean. Sin groups. The month of June, your sin group. Your goal is to have a party, a picnic, a barbecue. We've done our best to help our sin groups. We've tried to be online and in Zoom groups for 2 years now, and you can be outside. We had 100 people at the picnic yesterday. You can be outside and you can connect. You've been on Zoom for 2 years. Plan your party as a sin group. Friends at church, I've already talked about that. How important it is to have friends at church, serving together. Last night was so good for my soul. I was flipping burgers over the fire, and I was just kind of glancing around and looking at all the picnic tables and the chairs and people standing and talking and playing games and different stuff. And you could see joy that hasn't been seen in a long time. It was healthy and it was good. Do stuff together, play together, serve together, mix up your Christian and non-Christian friends. I can't wait for softball. I've already been to the batting cages twice, Luis. Luis organizes our softball once a week. It's non-competitive. We get out, we have fun. It's all ages. Men and women, boys and girls. We get out there and we have fun. And folks bring their non-Christian friends. You looking for something? Talk to Luis. Say, hey, I want to get on the softball thing. I don't know how to play softball. That's okay. We'll teach you. And we'll have fun doing it. If you're looking for some resources on friendship stuff, I was on there last week. Right Now Media has all kinds of good stuff. You can watch by yourself at home, if that's still where you're at. On friendships, just to encourage you, to help you get going. I'm going to wind things up. I began my talk by saying that I have been blessed with some great friendships, and many of those friendships are right here at Richmond Hill Baptist Church, and I am thankful for you. So thankful for you. I love you. You're a great church. On an encouraging note, for those of you that have been reluctant to do stuff with your friends because of COVID. If you're listening to this sermon, if you're online, it would be mostly those of you that are online. If you're listening to this and you're like, Pastor Shane, that's not what I wanted to hear today. On an encouraging note, for those of you that have been reluctant to do stuff with your friends because of COVID, I am a positive COVID testimony that I never got COVID. In fact, I never tested positive or negative because I never had to take a test. I didn't even have to worry about taking a test. And I can promise you, let me back up. Now, you got to know, I'm a big proponent of washing and sanitizing hands because I've been in and out of healthcare facilities and hospices and care facilities for years. And all about washing hands and paying attention to where my hands go around my head because that's where most germs enter the body is through your hands. I did my best to follow the guidelines. However, I did not let COVID prevent me from doing everything that I could within the guidelines to do ministry, family, and friendship stuff. Now, I'm not telling you this to brag. And I'm not going to raise hands for you to look around and see how many people actually got COVID. Okay? It's amazing how many people got COVID, and they didn't necessarily get tested for it. It spread. It was a pandemic. It's an endemic. I'm not lessening any of that, but our world has dealt with all kinds of diseases in and throughout the years. I'm not bragging that I didn't get COVID. I could get it tomorrow, and you'd all be laughing at me. Maybe not. You're my friends. I think. I'm not bragging. I am thankful. You wouldn't believe how many times I prayed asking for help because the stakes were high. How many times there was an Easter thing happening and I'm like, God, I just don't need to get sick right now. Can you help me? Can you protect me? Can God protect us from COVID? Yes. Does that mean that I don't do all of the other stuff that's healthy, good, and right? No. I prayed plenty. So I'm not sharing this to brag. I am thankful, and I want to be encouraging. Because in the last 2 years, I've been around a lot of people. And I was committed to what I preached on the very first sermon when everything shut down, that COVID would be an opportunity for the church and the kingdom of God. And I stand by that. It's not an opportunity to withdraw or to shrink. It's an opportunity to stand up in faith and be courageous, to not be foolish, to not go against all the guidelines. Not an opportunity to fight. It's an opportunity to shine bright in a dark, dark world. And I can look back over 2 years of COVID, and I can think about people who have come to faith in Christ, who have been baptized, who have been discipled, who have been encouraged, who have helped, who have grown in their faith. So I'm not sharing this with you for you to think that I'm being judgmental. And if you're online, I don't want you to think that I'm being judgmental, but rather encouraging. I want to challenge any unhealthy views of COVID that keep someone from ultimately keeping you from being healthy, right? Healthy. I want to encourage you to take baby steps relationally with friends. Meet for coffee. Go for a walk outside. Take some baby steps. But if you haven't done anything with anyone for 2 years, it can be a little awkward. Man, I've heard that a dozen times from people. It's like, talking to people face to face, it's a little awkward now. Because folks are out of practice. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 26. A righteous person is cautious in friendship, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. I want to invite you to stand. I want to invite our praise team to come up and join us. Maybe today you would just say, Pastor Shane, I am lonely. 2 years of COVID has left me lonely. I want your prayer today is just simply to be, God, give me some good friends. Help me be a good friend. I'm lonely. Give me some good friends. Help me be a good friend. Maybe you're thinking today, I haven't been a good friend with God. I do pretty good with my other friends, but I haven't been a good friend with God. Maybe that's your prayer today. God, help me to be a good friend with you. Help me in my walk with you. We're going to have some folks down here at the front, myself included, some of our staff and deacons. And if you want to come down and pray with someone or talk to someone about salvation or baptism or church membership, connecting with the church family, we'd be glad to talk with you. If you've got an offering or a gift or you want to contribute to the special building fund, the offering plates are here. But it's just really a time to respond. And we're going to be singing about the goodness of God. And I want you to pay particular attention to verse 2. I love your voice, God. You've led me through the fire. In the darkest night, you were close like no other. I have known you as a father. I have known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. Would you pray? Would you join us as we sing?
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Well, just before you head out, a few quick reminders, announcements. Whoop, there go my notes. We'll do it without them. If you are hearing me, that's great. I'm not sure if my mic is working or not. Thank you, Pastor Shane. If you are one of our seniors, if you would consider yourself a senior and you are looking for some way to come and hang out with friends, please know that on Thursday, June 16th, is our annual seniors barbecue. So there's going to be food and people in the same place, and you can join them. So sign up online. We'll make sure there's food for you, and you can count yourself in. That would be fantastic. Pastor Shane already mentioned the young adults this Tuesday night. Youth is Friday night. Lots of things going on. Have a great time connecting with your send groups. If you have kids downstairs, don't forget to pick them up. And if you have any questions, if you know anybody who's in grades 6 through 12 right now, and they're thinking about SYC, either they got questions or they need some help getting there, please encourage them to talk to me and encourage you to talk to them as well. And let's get all the kids out there. Have a great summer. And so head on out, enjoy the day, and go make a friend. Have a good one.